Hello everyone, Mr. K here again. We're talking a little more about code readers and scanners or scan tools today. I'm calling this part 2 because we're starting to talk about function tests and service resets. And we're really starting to get into what I call harnessing the power of the scan tool over just the basic, $20, $30 code reader. So, of course, with great power comes great responsibility. So we're going to talk about some things today that you could actually damage on the vehicle if you don't use a scan tool correctly. So it's pretty important. All right, so some of the things we're going to talk about: service resets, function tests, talking about what they are and some different kinds, some common function tests, and some ways you can actually kind of mess your car up, or mess a customer's car up, or break some things if you're not responsible with a scan tool, I guess, put it that way. Okay, service resets. I could talk about this for a while, but it's probably better if you watch a video. So this is going to be talking about asking the tool to reset something on the ECU, and this video is going to be about resetting a maintenance interval timer on a vehicle after the oil was changed, so that the oil change light goes off. So at this point, go ahead and pause my video and watch this one that talks about how to do that. Okay, you should have just watched that video. Pretty self-explanatory, I hope, but it shows how a scan tool can reset the maintenance interval or maintenance timer for an oil change on a Porsche. All right, talk about some different types of function tests. So we talked about a maintenance reset. Now let's talk about function tests. One kind is asking the tool to run a check on something or run a test. Asking the tool to turn on or off something. And asking the tool to program something. And by tool, I'm referring to the scan tool. Okay. You're going to see me use a lot of examples with the Solus Ultra, Snap-on Solus Ultra. That's because that's the one that we have in the shop and that we use the most. So try to get you familiar with it. Okay. Let's talk about asking the scan tool to run a check on something. If you're not sure what these pictures are, this is a dashboard removed underneath a dashboard on, I think that's a Dodge truck. Here's another view on the right side of the HVAC or heating, ventilation, air conditioning system on a typical vehicle. There are actuators. There's what's called a mode actuator and a blend door actuator. And what those do is when you move your heating controls from hot to cold, they control I guess they take that input from you actually changing it on the dash and turn an actuator so that you get hotter or cooler air. Okay, and the mode actuator moves the door to whether it controls whether you have air coming out of your defroster or down at your feet, that type of thing. Okay, so at this point, go ahead and pause my video and watch this one. Okay, you should have just watched that video. Hopefully that kind of gave you a little better idea of how you can ask your scan tool to run a check on something. Turning things on and off. In this case, we're going to talk about the ABS pump. So go ahead and again, pause my video and watch this one. It'll be self-explanatory. Okay, you should have just watched that video. It talks about using the scan tool to activate the ABS pump to bleed the brakes. Let's move on. This is pretty neat. You got to have a pretty high-end scan tool to do this. Ours, unfortunately, does not do it. I guess $4,000 just wasn't enough to buy the Snap-on version that would do this. Probably had to spend $5,000. But so we can't do this. However, one step up from ours is able to do this. Programming a chip key with a scanner. At this point, go ahead and pause my video and watch this one. Okay, you should have just watched that video. By the way, I only need you to watch it through 312. So hopefully you didn't watch the whole thing. If you did, that's fine. Just last 2 minutes aren't that important. This talks about how to use a scan tool to program a new chip key for your vehicle. Okay, hopefully you caught something in there. Well, we'll get to it on the next slide. That can be a little bit of a dangerous game if you click the wrong button. All right, so again, with great power comes great responsibility. Let's first talk about you can delete things that shouldn't be deleted if you're using a high-end scan tool. All right. You may have noticed in that video there was an option to erase all keys. Here, I think I got an arrow. Boom, look at that. Okay. If you hit that, even if it's on accident, and you delete all the keys, and then say it's the end of your shift and you're going to go home for the day, and you unplug the scan tool and say, well, the next guy can pick up where I left off. Maybe he doesn't do that, or maybe they're not sure where you left off. You can't move that car. No key will work in it. You've just deleted all the programmed keys to start that car. Doesn't matter if you have a factory admin key, you can't move the car. So now you have to plug in a scanner, wait 10 minutes to get into the PATS system, reprogram a new key before you can even get that car out of the shop. You can't even get it out of park, to put it in neutral to push it out. Okay, it's that big of a deal. So don't delete things that shouldn't be deleted. Okay, another don't when it comes to scan tools is, remember we're talking about those blend door actuators underneath the dash. This is a picture of one. I believe this is a GM one. Plastic gears, the way they come from the factory. And as they get older, the plastic gets brittle. And what happens is that plastic's kind of delicate on those gears, and the teeth are a little bit delicate. For everyday use, it works fine. But if you try to run a, let's see if I have it down here. Yeah, if you try to run a function test on that mode actuator with the scan tool, it will try to run that actuator to full travel one way and then the other. And then it will just verify that it does work going to full travel. The problem is when it goes to the end of full travel, it hits a stop and it puts a little bit of pressure on it. Kind of like if you were to close the door in your house, and instead of just closing it till it clicks and then walking away, you close it till it clicks and then you lean on it with your shoulder. You kind of put some body weight into it and then you let up and walk away. That's kind of what it does on these self-actuated, these scan tool mode actuator tests. So what it does, by doing that, I should say, it puts extra stress on those gear teeth and it can strip them. So you can actually cause a check engine light or break something. You can break this mode actuator just by running a function test on your scan tool. So if you don't need to do it, don't do it, especially on an older car. Don't just jump in an older car, a customer's car, and say, yeah, I'm just going to run a bunch of function tests for fun. This kind of stuff can happen. You're going to end up creating hundreds of dollars of damage if you do this, which, by the way, it is. I think it's $700 for the dealer to replace this because you have to take the whole dash apart. So you just incurred a $700 job, and it's your fault. And it's not the customer's fault. It is just because you wanted to play around with the scanner. Okay, don't do it if you don't need it. Okay, this is another one. This is a picture of an air ride suspension, and these are more common than you might think. It's not just something for heavy trucks, semi-trucks, that type of thing. Crown Vics, Grand Marquis have these. Cadillacs have them, Mercedes, kind of more high-end, comfortable vehicles. Some vans have them. So they're pretty common. You can jump into the settings, and I've done this. Haven't blown one up or ruined anything, but I've done this. You can jump on your scanner and jump into settings, and you can essentially override the vehicle's typical command to this air compressor. And typically what it tells this air compressor to do is just, hey, power on if the vehicle's starting to sag and sink down because you got, 3 guys in the back seat. Power on and give it a little more air in these airbags so the vehicle rides level. Well, you can jump in your scanner, you can power this thing, you can force command this air compressor on, period, and it'll just stay on and just keep going and going and going and going until some kind of overpressure valve pops open, or you blow an air shock up if the vehicle's off the ground. I mean, could be a variety of things, but not healthy for the system. Okay, don't. At the same token, you can also jump in and command the vent valve open so you can let all the pressure out of these. Also not good for them. You don't want to let all the pressure out. Okay, that's actually bad for the seals inside. You want to keep, I think it's 20 pounds minimum. So again, other things you can do with a scan tool that are dangerous, that are not good for the vehicle, can cause damage. Scan tool is not idiot proof. Okay. It will let you cause damage to the vehicle. Don't mess around with that stuff unless you know what you're doing and you have a need to do it. Okay. So just to summarize, your scan tool is not idiot proof. You can screw stuff up. You can blow things, break them, snap them, ruin them. You can create a check engine light when there was not one before. We talked about how you could do that. Check the manual. Don't get hung up on running these function tests, especially like the brake bleeding. We had a vehicle a while back that everyone says, "Oh, it's got ABS. It's got OBD2 system. You got to run the brake bleed, ABS bleed on the vehicle," and everyone was hung up on doing it. And then when I actually pulled the manual out and looked in it, it did not call for that at all. It called for the method of purging air from the ABS block if you put new brake lines on was to simply press and hold the brake pedal for 3 seconds. After you bleed everything, press and hold the brake pedal for, I think, 3 to 5 seconds with the engine running without letting it up. That was supposed to force air beyond the ABS block, then let the brake pedal up, shut the engine off, and rebleed the wheels. It had nothing to do with using a scanner. Don't just jump in there and think you have to use a scanner every time. Check the manual. If you don't need it, don't mess with it. All right, at this point in time, go ahead and complete your assignment on code readers and scanners, and this will be part 2. And I think there is going to be a part 3. We're going to dig into it a little further. All right, thank you, and have a good day.